My name is Or. This is new doing it till now. So, if you haven't guessed, I'm going to be doing Dungeons and Dragons tutorials. This is going to tutorial on how to make a character sheet step by step for the Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition. It's going to be cut into segments, and in the description I will put time frames to when each segment is. Sit back, enjoy, and if there's weird music playing through the entire thing, I'm sorry, I'm new to this software, haven't fully learned it yet. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you want to see in the future, and look forward to other videos like this. So without further ado, let's start with the characters. First thing, the most important thing is you have to determine what race and what class you want to be. Now, in terms to make this go faster, I'm going to tell you what the races are, but the overall one we're going to be is human. The choices for in the first handbook, and we're only looking at the handbook, for a starter's guide, we have the Dragonborn, the Dwarves, the Eldrin, the Elves, the Half-Elves, the Halflings, the Humans, and the Tieflings. Dragonborns are dragon-like humanoids. Dwarves are, well, we all should know what a dwarf is. The rude, strong, reckless guys. The Eldrin are like the founders to elves. Elves are elves. Half-elves are different type of breeds of elves. Humans are humans, and tieflings are sort of demonic humans. So for this example, we are going to be a human. More precisely, we are going to be a human fighter. So we're going to start with the things that humans need, which are on page 46 of the handbook if you're following around. Now, information like this at the top here, character name, all that, is not needed until the end, but we're going to briefly put it in. Like a human size is medium. We're going to make this guy 27 years old. He's going to be a male. He's going to be 6'1" like me and weigh 150 pounds like me. We don't gotta worry about any of the other details until later though. Next, we get, for being human, a +2 to one ability score of our choice. So we're going to note that down here. To ability score of choice. We are also going to put down here in the languages that we know common and one other language of choice, which I'm actually going to make Dwarvish. We can move a base of 6 squares here in the movement slot, and we also gain we gain a bonus at willpower. We gain a bonus feat, bonus skill, and bonus defense. More specifically, a +1 in fortitude, reflex, and will, which we can put right here, right now. Next, on page 75 of the handbook here, we are going to put in the fighters stuff. So the primary role is the defender, however you can also be a striker if you want. So you can go for the hard, brutal hitter or the tank. Martial powers, so it's through combat, fists, swords, shields. His key abilities are strength, dexterity, wisdom, and constitution. And what we do with that is what we're going to be doing right now, which is the ability scores. So there's multiple ways to do ability scores. What I find is the most effective way is the following. You take 4d6s, you roll them, you tally up the 3 highest, and that is 1 score you can put into of your choice. So I have 6 scores right here that we're going to put in 4 ability scores. Now we're going to make this guy more tanky. So we're going to give his dexterity here, this 15 I rolled, but we're going to give his strength and constitution 14s. I also rolled a 14, which I am going to be putting into charisma. I rolled a 13, which I'll put in wisdom, and an 11, which I'll put and intellect. Along with that, in the player's handbook, if you go to page 16 and scroll down, it explains the different methods you can do, but it also tells you the modifiers you get. So, for getting a 14 on my charisma, I get a +2 modifier. For getting a 13, I get a +1. For getting an 11, I don't get a modifier. For getting a 15, I get a +2. For getting a 14 +2, 14 +2. Since we're starting at level 1, we don't have a half level yet, so it's just our normal modifiers as it is. And that's how you do ability scores. At level 4, you can put 1 point into 2 scores of your choice. Same with level 8, level 12, level 16, so on, so forth. However, that's the gist of how you do ability scores. Now, briefly, we can incorporate that with the Fortitude, Reflex, and Will. Since we're level 1, we don't have a half level, so everything here stays at level 10. However, the ability mod comes into play. Take Strength and Constitution, the highest ability modifier is applied. Since they're both 2, we get a 2. Same thing with here. Our Dex is higher, 2. Charisma is higher, is 2. We don't have any other buffs like that, but don't forget, we have a +2 ability score of any choice we want, and we are going to put it into Strength, raising it to a 16, and a 16 raises our proficiency to 3, which means this also changes to 3. So now we tally them together for a total of 14 Fortitude, 13 Reflex, and 13 Will. So next, we are going to cover how much health your fighter will have, and also the skills for your fighter. So everything we need is right here. We're going to start with the health. So since we got our Constitution score now, we can get our health. I liked putting it here in the feats, even though it's not a feat, how many hit points I gain per level. I also like putting my proficiencies and other stuff, which we'll get to later. But we gain 6 hit points per level, and our starting health is 15 plus our Constitution score. 14 plus 15, that is 29. Yes. So now we take 29 and we cut it in half. For 14.5, round it down, that's your bloodied value. Bloodied, there's certain effects that will proc after being bloodied or allow you to use one bloodied. However, it also means you're getting close to death. When you reach 0, you're unconscious, you can't move, and all you can do is perform a death saving throw. If you succeed in doing the saving throw, you live. However, if you fail 3 times, you die. Alternatively, after you're lowered to 0 HP, if an enemy lowers you to negative bloodied, in this case negative 14, your character is dead. However, you do have healing that you can sometimes do. The surge value is 1/4 of your HP. So, 1/4 of 29, oops, just a second, there we go, is 7.25, or rounded down to 7. And we get 9 plus Constitution modifiers worth of daily surges. We got 2, so we have a total of 11 surges we can use each day. So that's really the simple hit points. Not the tankiest guy, unfortunately, but hopefully his AC and stuff will make up for it. You never know. So now let's move into the skills. So for being human, we get a bonus skill too. So out of the trained skills, we get to choose 4. So we're going to choose athletics, so we put a 5 here. We're going to choose endurance, which we put a 5 there. We're going to choose intimidate and streetwise. I want him to be strong, feared, healthy, and smart when it comes to the black market, the underground more specifically. I want him to be smart in the underground. So the rest of these we can give 0 because we do not have any training in anything else as of right now, and honestly we probably won't gain anything else. Next, we can add our ability modifiers to everything. So we know that dexterity, we have 2. Intellect, we have 0. Strength, we have 3. Charisma, 2. Wisdom, 1. Constitution, 2. Wisdom, 1. Intellect, 0. Wisdom, 1. Charisma, 2. Wisdom, 1. 1. 0. 2. Charisma, 2. And dexterity, 2. Now we can add these all up. So we have a 2 in acrobatics, 0 in arcana, 5, 6, 7, 8 in athletics, a 2 in bluff, a 2 in diplomacy, a 1 in dungeoneering, 5, 6, 7 in endurance, a 1 in heal, a 0 in history, a 1 in insight, a 5, 6, 7 in intimidate, a 1 in wisdom, a 1 in perception, 0 in religion, a 2 in stealth, a 7 in streetwise, and a 2 in thievery. These are all things that your DM is going to need throughout the game. He'll be like, oh, roll dungeoneering, roll a check with dungeoneering, or roll an intimidate check. So that's where that comes into play. Alright, next we are going to be doing the class features, proficiencies, and stuff related. So I've already went in and put it in, as you can see right here. And I'm going to go into more detail in a second, because this is, well, we need to know what these are. So for starters, I actually didn't notice it when I made the last segment, but we get a +2 to fortitude, which I wrote right there. So we're going to go up here, fortitude, class, get a +2, and that goes from a 14 to a 16. Next, if we scroll down, we can find our different things here. So the one we're looking for is combat challenge, which is right here. And just follow along, because it can get a little wordy, but basically you mark a target. That target receives a -2 penalty. I'm just going to do pent to attack rolls until the end of your next turn. End of next turn. I like abbreviating things if I can. So you can only have one mark on a target at a time. If you want to mark a different target, you have to take the mark off the old target first. And if that target attacks, so if attacks diff target, make basic attack first. So if the target makes a attack towards an ally that isn't you, or even shifts, but shifts too much to write down for that, you can make a basic attack against him. Next is combat superiority. You gain a bonus to the opportunity attack rolls equal to your wisdom modifier, which is 1. So we gain, so for opportunity attacks, +1, because that's our wisdom modifier. Next, we get fighter weapon talent, and I spread these out for sake of, I didn't know how much I was going to wipe. So we choose either one-handed or two-handed, and we gain a +1 bonus to attack rolls. We are going to choose, since we're going for tank, one-handed, and we're going to gain +1 to attack rolls, which we can put in later. So we got all of that. You have one action point, and we're able to wear up to scale armor and use all types of weapons. So that's all the class stuff. That's basically all the character stuff. Actually, we're going to put in a few little things up here. So your initiative is equal to your dexterity modifier. Put a 2 there. No half level, nothing else. We have an initiative 2. According to our skills, we have a insight of 1 for a total of a passive of 11, and we have a perception of 1 for a total of passive 11. The rest we can determine once we get our armor and weapons, which is in the next segment coming up. So your armor is what's going to determine, well, how strong you are. With the higher your armor class is, the harder it is for your opponent to hit you. Because with you and your opponent, you have to roll a d20, apply any buffs you get, and if you beat their AC, you hit them. So you want as high as possible. Being a tank, we're going to want to go with the toughest armor we can get with the least amount of defects, and that is scale armor. We get a +7 bonus to armor, but we lose 1 speed. So what we do is we go up here to armor, lose -1 speed, but we gain a +7. But it's not all. With all armor, we also gain a +2, or well, rather, we add our dexterity mod here. So this dexterity mod is 2, goes to 19. However, we're also going to be equipping a light shield, so in total, we're going to have 10, giving us a nice AC of 20. That, to be honest, that's the first time I've seen a level 1 have higher than 17, but I haven't made a tank since my paladin, and he started it with very shitty stuff, and he has 21 AC right now, and he's almost level 6, so you know, we can tell we've made a pretty strong guy just from that. So we're also going to get the weapons. So this is page 214 of the handbook, explaining all the armor and stuff. Next, we're going to move on to the weapons. If you're wondering about, the gold, give yourself like 100 gold. It's the magic roll of D&D. You have 100 gold out of nowhere. Spend it. Whatever you have left is what you have left, because you can't be running around naked. Well, you can, but it's preferred you don't, because we don't want people stealing swords and rubbing their balls on them, if anyone got that reference. So next, with the weapon, we got the longsword here. It's my preferred weapon. I actually really like it. So longsword is a strength versus AC weapon. Not AV, AC. Follow along in the basic attack section. So the weapon is a longsword. It deals 1d8 damage. Now, we also are going to apply stuff to it. So we're going to start with the damage workspace. Longsword. We add stuff like our strength modifier, which is 3. We don't have any feats enhancements. However, we do have a +3 proficiency with longswords, since we're proficient with military weapons. So in total, with our damage, we're getting, sorry, not our damage, transfer this over to accuracy. 3 0 3 0 0 0. I thought that looked weird. Damage is something totally different based on, well, yes, strength. So in the end, yes, we still do get that +3. But so really, I just killed two birds with one stone here. So you can do this for all the weapons you have, really. Basically, you add your half level ability modifier, any class bonuses, proficiency, feats, enchantments, etc. And this increases your roll. So when you roll that d20, if I rolled a 10, I add that 6, 16. Let's say I hit the target. Now I roll my damage. Let's say I rolled 7. Well, now I deal 7, 8, 9, 10. However, longswords are pretty special, for they have the versatility, which means you can use them with 2 hands, which increases the damage to 1d10. So you can do the well, it's pretty much the exact same thing, no point running it a second time. So once you've completed that, and if you're wondering where you can put it, just down here, other equipment, can put all your stuff right there, along with any rituals, your coin. That should put you about 35 gold. And yeah, briefly, before we go into the final part, we're going to talk briefly about the stuff on right here. This is all character customization. You can make that ever you want. It doesn't have, like, it's all for your character. If your DM requires specific things about your character, this is where you would put it. It's not like You don't gain anything from it unless your DM wants to incorporate something with it. So now, that was really cool. Now, be prepared for the final segment in creating a character, which is the powers. And when I said the final segment, I meant the second final segment. When I said powers, I meant feats and anything else I haven't covered already. So mainly feats and deities. I've already went ahead and put in my feats so we wouldn't have to spend too much time on it because it's already getting to be a long video. But basically, at level 1 you get 1 feat. Level 2 you get 2 feats. And at other level points you get another feat, and they, depending on which one you choose, allows you to do extra things. Being a human, we get to choose another feat. So I have 2 feats here. Now I'm just going to briefly not going to spend time going over them because honestly in the current campaign I'm using, I have 1 feat when I should have like 5. It's ridiculous. And that's actually the feat right there that I'm using on my guy, because he's a dragonborn paladin, lawfully good, which we're going to get into also. So linguistic, learn more languages, alertness, there's all these feats that have requirements to meet them. 13 strength, 13 constitution, training with leather armor, etc, etc. Certain class traits, fighter traits, dwarf traits, dragonborn traits, there's a huge variety. Training traits, and then there's heroic traits, which is a list that I got mine from. This is on page 196 of the handbook, and the 2 traits I picked were improved initiative, which is all the way down somewhere here. Right there. Doesn't require anything, gives you a +4 to initiative, so up here I got +4 to initiative. And the last one I chose was weapon focus to get +1 damage with chosen weapon group. I picked military swords, so I even put it here. Feat gives me 1, so I do 1 more damage with my long sword. So that's feats. There's not much doing, there's an entire list. I could spend literally hours talking about what type of feats you should try and focus on. Really just pick from the list what you meet, what you sounds interesting, and you can get more feats over time. You can get a lot more feats. So next we are going to briefly go over deities. Deities are around page 19. Basically there's good, lawfully good, evil, chaotic evil, and unaligned. Good, freedom and kindness. Lawful good, civilization and order. Evil, tyranny and hatred. Chaotic evil, entropy and destruction. Unaligned, having no alignment, not taking a stand. These don't give you any physical buffs, but your DM might incorporate something with them. So, me being this fighter who's seen some pretty crude things, out of this list of deities here, he doesn't feel like, he doesn't feel good. He doesn't feel like God is really existing, that there's a God looking out for him, but he's not full of hatred. He's more unaligned. And out of all the gods that have found him not worthy of messing with, there's been one god who's been like, hey man, I understand your point of view, here's my point of view, and this character's liked it. He's found that he doesn't hold pity for those who suffer and die, for death it's a natural end of life. Him who's ended lots of lives know this personally. He brings down the pride who try to cast off the chains of fate. So those who try to, oh, I'm powerful and I'm going to do this, he brings them down. He shows them that everyone's the same. As the instrument of the Raven Queen, you must punish hubris where you find it. So basically scum, like, I'm better than you. Well, you're dead now. You clearly weren't better than me. And he watches out for cults of Orcus and stamp them out whenever they arise. The demon prince of those undead seeks to claim the Raven Queen's throne. So basically, she said, in exchange for you helping protect my throne and follow my faith, I will forgive your sins that you are holding down deep inside. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm not going to ask you to go slay a dragon for me. I'm just like, hey, if this group tries to mess with me, mess them up. And this guy went, okay. So, in deity, we'll put the Raven Queen. Epic Destinies come at level 21. Paragon passes at level 11, so I'm not going to spend time talking about those. Our finalizing, our speed is 5. We got our AC initiative. All this stuff is done. So now, the final thing we're getting into is the power index. Alright guys, and this is the final part of what you need to know when making a Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition character, and that is his powers. Now a character has 4 powers in which they can draw magic from. The first one being their at-will powers, which are powers that can be used an infinite number of times in a day. You can use, for example, I have here written down Sure Strike one turn, and next turn use Sure Strike again. At-wills don't have a limit, however, you get maxed out at, I believe, 5. Eventually, you start off with only 2. So you can switch them out for better ones if you feel fit, however, you gotta choose them wisely. So, I'm going with sort of what is recommended. Like, the only one was recommended for a guardian, which is what we are, is the encounter, which I'll get to now. Encounter powers can only be used once during an encounter. So me with only having 1 encounter power, I can only use passing attack once in an encounter. After a new encounter starts, I can use it again, but right now, since I only have 1, I have 1 opportunity, hit or miss, to use it. Daily powers can be used once a day. Once you use a daily power, same with the utility power, you have to take an extended rest to be able to use them again. So now, I'm going to briefly go over what these at-wills, encounters, and daily powers are, and why I chose them for this guy. So, we're going to start with the at-wills, which are Sure Strike and Tide of Iron. Now, we need to be able to pack a punch. Sure Strike is a basic deal 1 weapon damage, strength +2 versus AC. This could be good because it applies all the damage that your weapon's getting. It's pretty much a basic attack. It doesn't replace your basic attack, however, it will do the same amount of damage that you would do. If not, it will do around 2 more. Tide of Iron is a strength versus AC. It's a 1 plus strength modifier damage, and you push your target 1 square. If his size is smaller than you, or 1 size larger than you, or the same size as you, you can take the space that you just made. So for example, let's say I was a gnome who is small, and I pushed a giant. I'm not taking his place, because he's a giant. I probably moved his toe. However, me being as a human, let's say I moved a gnome. Yeah, I could probably throw that gnome across the world and then take the spot that he originally was. It's good. That's why I chose those 2. It allows me to move enemies to get in between them and allies and deal a good hit to the enemies if I don't have my encounter power anymore. If you scroll down here, and there's tons of others that you can choose from, you just read and feel what's best for you, and this was what I felt was best for this character. They suggested covering attack, which is a strength modified damage, ally adjacent to you can shift 2 squares. It's decent, however, I feel passing attack is much more useful, especially if you use it after you use Tide of Iron, because you attack an enemy and then you can shift 1 square and make a secondary attack. That secondary attack has to be towards a different target though. So if I moved an enemy and then shifted to another enemy, and then use this, I can hit both those enemies as long as they're in my melee range. And the second attack is my strength +2 versus AC, which is incredibly strong. That's almost a guaranteed hit unless they have 20 or higher AC with all your bonuses and whatnot. So it is very powerful. Pretty much 2 attacks. Now, combat strike is what they suggested, and I just couldn't choose any of the other ones because basically, strength modified damage, I spend a healing surge. If I'm low in health, I use this, I deal massive damage, I heal. Utility powers come in at level 2, so I'm not going to go over them a whole lot, however I will show you them briefly. If this guy was level 2, the utility power I would choose would be Unstoppable here. You gain temporary hit points equal to 2d6 plus your constitution modifier. Let's say I rolled both 6s on there. That's 12, that's 14 temporary hit points I gain, which is nice. So that is everything you need to know to create and start playing a character for Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition. In this, we covered equipment, gold, backgrounds, powers, skills, features for both class and race, languages, feats, proficiencies, attack damages, hit points, ability scores, senses, movements, defenses, initiative, and basic character information, including size, age, gender, height, weight, alignment, deity, class, and race. My name is Bailey, or Relx. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments down below. If you also want to see other 4th edition classes being made, tell me which ones and I'll make one. I will also be doing the same type of video for 5th edition and on how I find the best effective way to create custom classes and races if that is something that you want to try and do. Until then, stay tuned. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.